morning. It's Monday, March 4th. We're just 1 week away from spring break, and I know everyone is counting down for that. More on that later. Thanks for joining us on Up to the Minute. I'm Dr. Amy Tan, Dean of HCC's English and Communications, and I'm joined today by Dr. Nicholas Cox, our History Department Chair. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning. Good morning. It's good to see you again. When you said a week, I thought, wait a minute. Isn't it only 4 days?
Yeah, 4 days, 4 more days. Depends on how you're counting down. But next week, we should all be on break and not at work. Of course, we are all happy to be at work today, and we have a great show planned for you. We're bringing you the news, announcements, and events, and we have a couple of special guests with us today. We are live every day. HCC is in session. Nick, how can people find us?
Yeah, we are. We're live on the Houston Community College District's Facebook page and on YouTube. We're also on X, LinkedIn, and on HCCTV at noon, 5, and 10 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Excellent. So we appreciate your joining us for Mental Health Monday. And today we're joined by one of our monthly guests who will discuss ageism. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, the Executive Director of the Jung Center of Houston, and our Mental Health Monday guest.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Well, and we're very interested in how the topic of ageism is shifting, and I'm personally looking forward to hearing about ageism since I have recently discovered I qualify for AARP.
Yeah, I just got my card recently, so I'm with you. Yeah.
It's a new era.
Yep.
Well, hang on 1 second and we'll be right with you, and looking forward to that. First, we have an international student success story who started here at HCC with ESL classes to earn an associate's degree and is now working for Alief ISD. Li Wen Su, HCC graduate, currently public relations specialist and education foundation liaison for Alief ISD. And I want to give a quick shout out to Leadership Houston, which is where I had the chance to meet Li Wen in person. Welcome to the show, Li Wen. Oh, are you muted?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. I am so excited to have a chance to chat with you. I suggested you as a guest for the show because I was so impressed by your accomplishments, how far you've come and what you've achieved, not to mention what you are inspiring your sons to do. Why don't we kick off today's discussion by talking about where you're from? Where were you originally born and raised?
Amy, I was born in Taiwan, in Taipei. And when I was 5 years old, my family moved to Argentina, my parents and my 2 sisters.
So truly an international childhood.
Yes, actually, when I moved to Argentina, I was so young. I don't think I realized I was in another country until I was in like second grade.
So do you still have childhood memories of Taipei?
Just a little bit. I went back after 20 years. So I was almost 23 when I traveled back to Taiwan. So I have pictures. I have some of my relatives in my Facebook, but I don't really have, the close relationship with them.
And so you were educated primarily in Argentina.
I started kindergarten in Taiwan, and when I moved to Argentina, I think I restarted kindergarten in Argentina. I didn't know any Spanish. My family didn't know any Spanish, so I just learned the new language inside the classroom.
That's incredible. So that was your second language, Spanish.
Yes, and when I came here, I learned English as my third language.
That's incredible, and I know quite an accomplishment just to gain those additional languages. And I've done quite a bit of research on language acquisition, and it's interesting the difference between how children acquire languages versus adults. And so I think and of course an incredible skill to be able to say you speak multiple languages.
I speak Taiwanese when I'm with my family. And the funny thing is that when I went back from Taiwan, I was thinking in Taiwanese for a couple of weeks. And it depends. If something like in English, I can think in English, or most of the time, I think in Spanish.
And I think that's the shift, right? When you recognize that you're actually thinking in that other language.
Yes, I speak Taiwanese, but sometimes, I don't have the vocabulary because I left the country when I was 5. So let's say that my Taiwanese is like the family Taiwanese. So, so when I talk to my mom, sometimes I need to use some Spanish word, and when I talk to my kids, sometimes I need to use the English words to talk to them in Spanish.
Is that code switching? Would we call that code switching? A little bit, maybe not. Well, tell us about your studies in Argentina. What did you study when you were in Argentina?
After high school, I started my career in communication science and for journalism. I love reading, I love writing, so I only wanted to be a magazine journalist, actually. And after my first year, I also studied my career for broadcasting. That was at ISER, that is the institute just focused on national announcer. And that was founded in 1950. And I was the first one with the Asian face who got the degree in Argentina.
Oh, what an accomplishment. That's incredible. What brought you to Houston? How did you end up in Houston?
When I finished my degree, I was working for 2 different national TV stations. One, I was the face of let's say the marketing, because when you get a degree from ISER, you are like the official person who can announce brands. Let's say that you have somebody say, okay, this segment is sponsored by, and then the official announcer can say, the brand. So after that, and then I was in the news for the national TV station, and my family traveled to Houston to visit my aunt, and they offered one of us, my siblings or myself, to come and study. And my sisters were still, in college, so I was like, okay, let me go and let me try. So I think that's why I decided to come here. My aunt and my uncle sponsored me for HCC. So the decision was between April and August, and in August I was already here.
Well, and so essentially, when you came to Houston, you had the equivalent of a bachelor's degree. Am I understanding that correctly?
I know, because when I did my transfer, they didn't accept the credit that I have from Argentina, so I started here. So I started my ESL classes at Galveston campus.
Oh, I have excellent memories of that campus. Yes. And so did you choose HCC? Was there a particular reason why you wanted to study at HCC? And what degree did you receive from HCC?
My family, my aunt, my uncle's family are living in the Houston area. So I think that's why they decided. And it was, they just sent my paperwork and I got accepted. So I studied thinking, okay, maybe computer science, something that I want to do. But after the first semester, I realized that no, the kids here were too smart for me for computer science. And I always wanted to be a teacher. So after the first semester, I switched to education. So I studied about, let's say, a year and a half at HCC with my first classes. And I may say that I came here with my F1 student visa. So I was paying the international fees. So for me, HCC was a really great help because it was more affordable than, the university. So I got my degree in arts at HCC, and then I moved to University of Houston downtown.
Wonderful. And yes, we are so proud of our program and really appreciate the opportunity that that international students come to HCC and contribute to our community. So you went to UHD, and what degree did you graduate from UHD?
Interdisciplinary studies, that is early childhood through 4th grade. And after that, I got a certification for special ed, ESL, and bilingual.
And yet, you ended up in public relations again. Tell us about your work experience. Were you in the TV news before working for Alief?
Yes, so in Houston, I was part of Telemundo Houston before there were Channel 48. So I was there when they switched to Channel 47. And I was also part of the public relations department. I was the director's assistant and also the education foundation from Telemundo. So I still had, my love from the broadcasting and my love from teaching. So now I found the perfect job for me.
It's a way to combine both. Well, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Amy, this is my year 20 in Alief. So I have been teaching in Alief for 19 years. The last 7 were as specialists, technology and science specialists. And now I started last year as my PR.
It's so incredible that you're able to join them both. And before I have to let you go, I want to hear about your sons. They are taking dual credit at HCC in Dallas.
Just one of them, because one is still a freshman, the other one is a senior. So he's taking actually an English class. So I'm very happy that he can enjoy, the opportunity that HCC is offering to my sons. And I have great memories.
Oh, it's just wonderful that your sons are part of the HCC family too. And one more thing before I let you go, did I hear you received an award for Teacher of the Year?
That was before I received my position as a specialist. I was a bilingual teacher for the building, then the Teacher of the Year, and that the same year I was one of the Teacher of the Year finalists. I didn't win, but I was in between, the fourth.
Being recognized for that is the award. And I'm so glad. I feel like this interview just went way too fast. So we're going to have to connect again and talk some more. But I'm just so glad that I had the chance to meet you in the community. And HCC is proud to have you as a graduate. And we really appreciate you giving us some time this morning. So thank you, Li Wen Su, Public Relations Specialist and Education Foundation Liaison for Alief Independent School District. We're going to have all your information in our post after the show.
Thank you, Amy. Have a good day.
Hey, take care. You too. And on to you, Nick.
Hey, these HCC successful alum story segments are just wonderful. Glad we get to highlight our successful students out there. So we are going to move on to Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, Executive Director of the Jung Center of Houston and our Mental Health Monday guest. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. It's good to see you, Nick.
Excellent, excellent. So today we're going to talk about aging and ageism, 2 very different things, but a large segment of our community, the baby boom generation, is heading to retirement. By 2030, everyone in that generation will be 65 or older. It's going to affect our entire society in so many ways. What does mental health look like as we get older, as we enter the retirement phase of our lives?
So it's a good question, and I would say it's a huge subject. And if I was going to just bottom line it or pick one thing to focus on, it would be community. It's how we experience community, and rather how in our society here, community is something that it's a resource that is really lacking for people as they age. We're used to thinking about 65, which is as this magic number, right? That people are starting to consider retirement. Retirement is kind of a catch-all term that we have for the end of our lives, right? So in this society, if you're heading into retirement, then what you're doing is heading to the end of your life, which is telling, I think, because retirement is really an economic concept. It's this time in our life when we leave the workforce, we leave full-time employment. Of course, not all people at age 65 are employed full-time, but it's a way of saying that our fundamental intrinsic worth in society is dependent on our economic role, right? It's like if you think about meeting somebody for the first time, how often do you ask them, well, what do you do for a living? Rather than, like, so what are your values, or what are you curious about right now, or what gives you life, right? So we're used to thinking of ourselves first in terms of our economic value. And what that means for people that are aging is that they're facing a sharp change in their identity. If they're employed, and as I say, many aren't, it often means a drastic loss of community. And our mental health can and does suffer when we lose that community. One of the core risks for the aging for our aging population is loneliness.
Yeah, no, I think it's great to highlight that our identities wrapped up into our careers and professions often leaves people who leave the workforce a little bit unmoored, right? There are a lot of people who delay retirement not because of financial reasons, but because it's work that provides purpose.
Yeah,
My father's in his mid-70s and he still works part-time. He just can't imagine not working.
yeah, we don't, and there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that. It's just the underlying question, which is, who are we apart from our roles? And in our society, we don't have good answers for that. We don't support that understanding of what it means to be human.
So how do we address issues like loneliness that people in retirement or people in these sort of socially attenuated circumstances, how do we eliminate those barriers and alleviate loneliness?
So the barriers are of course substantial, but I would say that we need to start with something that's simple but not necessarily easy. I think actually is countercultural, which is to intentionally build community. And it's fundamentally, I think this depends on reclaiming the value of older people. Gerontologists talk about, they make a distinction in this part of our lives between the third age and the fourth age. So the third age is when if we've raised children, our children have left the house, if we've been engaged, in work, that our work lives are winding down. And it's that period, the third age lasts from then until we reach the fourth age, which is the point at which our bodies and our psyches really are declining and we're becoming more frail and we need to be cared for as we head toward death. So what we lose in this culture, one of the things that we lose in this culture is the wisdom of people in this period of time. There has been in cultures across the world, across time, a real value placed on elders and an understanding that when they may have stepped back from their leadership roles or their more visible roles, that they are actually entering a different and extremely valuable, socially valuable period of time when they can be advising, right? And they can be engaged in growing the next audit, sort of the next, the next generation of leaders and people who are working within these contexts. And I do believe that if we're staying focused on the workplace, that there are models for this, for maintaining the wisdom of elders, even as they leave retirement. I have a friend who is in leadership in a major architecture firm here in town, and they include some of their executives who have retired, they retain on their leadership team, and they engage when they come to town or when they have time or energy. They'll come to meetings and they'll contribute as a full member of the team, and then they return to their retired lives outside of the workplace. So it's not as though we can't do it, it's that there are a lot of barriers to it. And I think the primary label for that is ageism.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you about ageism in just a second, but what we were describing above about loneliness is again, I spent the past 3 or 4 days in Dallas with my father and his wife, and they're in their mid-70s and they're very socially and physically active, but they're also, the larger your social network is at that age in your mid-70s, the more frequently you lose people. They're sort of losing friends, right? And that's a sort of another, I guess, mental health challenge of watching your close friends and family members pass away ahead of you.
It is, and we don't. This gets to a larger question, which is how we relate to death in this culture. Death is something that is a scandal, and we even really avoid using the words. We talk about somebody having passed or transitioned, and that's not that there's anything intrinsically wrong with that. It's just that we haven't allowed ourselves as a culture to really understand that death is inherently part of life, and we haven't prepared for it, right? That doesn't mean there isn't real loss. And grief, of course, is the emotion that we associate with any of our experiences of loss. And aging involves a great deal of loss of people and loss of capacity, right? And loss of social role, as we've been discussing.
Well, Sean, let me ask you before we wrap up a couple of minutes here about ageism. What is ageism and what can we do about it?
So ageism, very simply, is discrimination, prejudice, and stereotyping based on age. There's a study that the University of Michigan did in 2020 that suggested that 82% of adults aged 50 to 80 experience one or more forms of ageism on a daily basis. So we can think about ageism in one of three ways. The first is being exposed to ageist messages, like jokes about old age or aging or older people, or references to older adults as being unattractive or unappealing. The second way that we might think about ageism is ageism in interpersonal interactions. So the classic one is just assuming that an older person doesn't know how to use their cell phone or their computer, that they have problems with hearing or seeing, or they're having problems with remembering or understanding, which of course is a major national conversation right now with both of our presidential candidates. A pernicious form of this is being perceived as not having anything important or valuable to say, or that elderly people need help with tasks that they can do on their own. The third way is actually, speaking of pernicious, probably the most pernicious, which is the ways in which it's internalized. So, which looks like loneliness, and it looks like experiences of sadness and anxiety and depression that older people associate specifically with getting older.
Well, Sean, I want to thank you for your time here today as a guest. I know you're teaching a 4-week class starting on March 14th called How Can We Accept Mortality, about that denial of death issue you raised earlier. And we'll have more information about the Jung Center and your courses in our posts after the show. But thank you again. This is Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, the Executive Director of the Jung Center of Houston, and our Mental Health Monday guest.
Thanks, Nick. It's great to see you.
Thanks so much, Nick and Sean. We're going to move on to our news, events, and announcements. We're going to start off with a donut party today. This is Vocable submissions for creative writing. And if you aren't sure how to submit your creative works of arts, if you'd like help editing or just want to learn more about Vocable, the Creative Writing Club is hosting a submission party. Students can bring their works to submit, or they can even log onto a computer and get the help they need. That's going to be from 2 to 4 today, Monday, March 4th at the Katy campus. It's in a computer classroom. Be sure to check the post after the show for more information.
Well, HCC's academic centers are also hosting virtual workshops to teach study strategies and helpful academic habits. The next workshop coming up is Wednesday, March 6th at 4 p.m. Remembering what you read. Check our post after the show for more information.
And if you want to see some excellent Greek tragedy, we have a drama production coming up. Oedipus Rex is the ancient story of a man who seeks to uncover the murderer of a king, only to find out that he is that murderer. For the last 2,500 years, Oedipus Rex has been seen as one of the finest of all the Greek tragedies. If you want to go and see that production, it's going to be 7:30 p.m. Wednesday to Friday. That's this March 6th through the 8th. It will also be 2 p.m. on Saturday, March 9th at HCC Northeast Caldwell's Black Box Theater. For more information and to register, check the post after the show. And a big day is coming up, Nick.
Yes, the International Women's Day is just on the horizon. And if you want to celebrate International Women's Day, our Dr. Ford Fisher will be having a luncheon with the Houston chapter of the United Nations Association. Other speakers include Texas State Representative Ann Johnson and Harris County Commissioner Leslie Briones for the compelling discussion titled Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. That's going to be Friday, March 8th at 11 a.m. at the Houston City Hall Legacy Room. Wearing purple for International Women's Day is encouraged. Check our post after the show for more information.
Looks like a great program. Another great program is our Innovations Fellows program. The application process is now open for the 2024-25 Innovation Fellows at West Houston Institute. This is a year-long opportunity for personal and professional growth of full-time faculty and staff that is designed to develop the mindset and skill set for innovation in higher education. The deadline to submit is March 30th. The submissions will be reviewed. Interviews will be scheduled in early May. So be sure to check the post after the show for more information on that excellent opportunity.
All right, as always, we want to encourage people out there to enroll in classes. The F8B second 8-week session starts right after spring break on March 18th, and there are vacancies. So if students out there are still looking for spring courses, it's not too late. I have classes online anytime, online on a schedule, in person, hybrid, and hybrid labs. To learn more about HCC programs, start dates, and options to cover your costs, go to hccs.edu/apply.
Thanks so much for joining me today, Nick.
It was a good Monday again, as always.
Excellent. And coming up, we're going to have Dr. Margaret Ford Fisher. She'll be visiting Up to the Minute for the first time since history was made, with her being the first African-American woman selected as HCC's chancellor. And for Tasty Tuesday, Pon de Cherie, Houston will return to talk about its new cookbook, Masala, Recipes from India, the Land of Spices. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.